Hi, everybody. It's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today on the show, we have Christie Baines from Chicago, but really Barrington in the northeast suburb or northwest suburbs of Chicago in that Jameson Sotheby's office. Christie, good to see you. Thanks for coming on today.
Good to see you too, Jerry. How have you been?
Good. Last time
Yeah,
we saw one another was it
I
3 years ago now? Or
probably
more?
you were on a panel with
Person.
Jameson. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a long time, but good to see you again, even on Zoom.
yeah, it is. It is. When I get into Atlanta the next time, we'll have to go have lunch or something.
Yes, we do. Then now we're just like, don't even take me there. I'll start talking about all the restaurants I love. So back to the show. Thank you for coming on. Let's start with how and why did you decide to become a real estate agent? Everybody 34 years ago, by the way. For
Um,
34 years, you know what you're doing.
well, it just kind of evolved. I always had a kind of a intrinsic in interest in interior design. And I think that houses were just a natural flow for that. And I did a brief stint in the restaurant industry and thought, oh my gosh, I should get my life regulated. And so I'll sell real estate. And well, that was a laugh.
Life regulated. I love it. So also real estate. Clearly you didn't know yet.
Clearly, I did not realize it.
So 34 years ago, you're in the restaurant business, and of all things, of course, you thought it would regulate, but what else was and interior design?
Well, I love looking at interiors of houses and it just, love to decorate, love to, see people's yards. And it just seemed like such a fun job to do that. How could you not go get licensed and do this? Jump right in.
I love it. So
But
you get your license and you
mhm,
jump in, and what did
yes.
that look like?
Well, it was a slow process. Tried to, I was a big studier of the market. And back then, which most people can't probably imagine, the younger agents, I mean, we had these big books and you got them every week. And I would sit and peruse them of all of our neighborhood houses. And of course, you didn't know what the interiors looked like. So you had to go on broker tour. So, and on broker tour, you always got lunch or something. So it was just, very fun.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 80s. And that was a lot about the real estate business because interest rates, I laugh when everybody says, oh my God, interest rates were 7 or 8, hopefully
Hmm.
they don't go back there. Our interest rates were 18%. So most of the homes were sold on contract sales because there wasn't a lot of bank financing that anyone would possibly do. And it was a much different environment, a much different industry back then.
Wow. So back then, now let's talk about today, and then we're going to go back then and talk about your first deal. So tell us a little bit about today. You've got a team with 3 agents, but give us a
I
little bit about what your business looks like.
Our business platform is basically it's luxury. That's where we came out of because I did a lot of development work. So when I got out of resale for a while and then did 4 or 5 developments for developers. One of them was the Jack Nicklaus Development Corporation. So I actually was the first person that was hired in Illinois from sales capacity in a community called Windstone in North Barrington. And it was a 750-acre development. It was raw.
And how
That,
many years ago was that?
that was in 1989.
1989. And you said that was 750-acre raw development?
Yep. Yep. They put the golf course in. So Nicholas was actually here with his senior designers developing the golf course, and we were developing the home sites. And the sister community is right down the street from you in Alpharetta. It's Country Club of the South.
Ah,
So
okay.
So that was our sister community. In fact, we all flew out there to see what the sales center looked like and sort of, got an idea of what the country club was going to look like. And although it was different architecture style
Yeah.
between from Atlanta than Chicago, but that's when I transitioned for a few years into development sales. And that was the start of it. And then I did four more developments for four different local developers here in Chicago when we actually got Windstone was, selling pretty quickly. We put a featured builders program together with 12 different builders that were the those were the builders that we suggested the clients use. And it was really fun. We walked the lots with them. We went,
Wow.
it was right from the ground, boots on, and out you went.
Wow. So you were in 1985 when you started the Jack Nicklaus development, because
Yeah, it
you've
was
been an
actually
agent. Yeah.
86
Okay.
86 was when I was here.
So you had been an agent.
I'd
I
been a
kid you were
resale
a
agent,
brand new agent.
pretty much, pretty much.
Yeah. So
And
you started out on site, 1986, Jack Nicklaus. You were the first salesperson
yep.
hired for
Mhm.
on site, and you did that, and then four more developments.
Yep, for more local developers.
So what did that look like? So obviously as a resale agent, you touched on that. You've got your books, you're looking in the books, and then you go into I mean, what an opportunity
It was
to do new
tremendous.
development. What was that like to all of us resale agents who don't know that world very well?
They didn't understand it. They didn't understand how the resale world would enter into the development world. And we made it because they had had the experience down in Atlanta with Country Club of the South, where they had their own sales team in and they weren't cooperating with the realtors. And it was a pretty big mistake that they made. And
Yeah,
so they had learned their lesson. And so
especially in Atlanta of all markets, this one market you don't do that in,
yeah,
right? I mean,
Chicago's
wow.
pretty much the same way. I mean, you guys have we have a lot of synergies that are
Mhm.
similar. Um, and especially with the old guard. And
Exactly.
and Barrington has a lot of that where it was the old guard realtors and, they sort of own the marketplace and you didn't make them angry.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm,
So
not a good idea.
we opened the doors to them and literally all they had to do was bring their client in, let us work with them, and we paid them a commission. And so it was a very easy process for them. And I think that it probably helped put it on the marketplace and be probably one of the most, I at one point in time, I know it was considered one of the most successful developments in for sure the Chicagoland area and even in the Nicholas, because we literally deposited, did site selection, and went to contract within 13 months of starting sales on almost 75% of the community.
And were those pre-sales? Because you said raw, like I'm assuming that means not
It was the
entitled, not
lots.
developed, not, okay. So it was
We were,
developed, but they weren't built.
no, we were on Jeep trails. We had Jeeps
Wow.
and we were going through the property
So you
and
could sell that vision.
it was really fun. Well, the property was magnificent. They
Wow.
had put together 27 contiguous pieces of property in order to come up with the 750 acres. And W. Clement Stone had the original 300 acres of it. And so a lot of people in Chicago knew who W. Clement Stone was. I mean, he was a local philanthropist. And it was the first new country club probably could be 75 years, private country club
Yeah.
that came into the marketplace. So it was a lot of fun. I think that from that I really enjoyed the development side of the sales process more than anything. And especially the new home sale process was really a lot of fun because you were working with clients. They were so excited. You're involved with their architect, picking out the sites. Then you're involved with putting them with one of the builders, and you're helping them with their building plans. They're always using you as their soundboard. And
Yeah.
it was a process that I'm not so sure is duplicated today very often. What was
Wow. Because you were, and by that you mean you said it was a process that's not done or replicated or duplicated today very often. And is that because you were holding their hand from literally raw land to developed built home and a finished product, and you pre-sold it in 13 months?
Yes, yes, we did.
Unbelievable.
We did.
And then so you said after that, 4 more developments?
Yes, I did. From that, I did a local developer actually who was in the commercial business, huge commercial, very, very big commercial global company. And he had a horse farm that he had, and he developed some houses on it, and he was trying to develop the second phase of it. And he was a pretty expensive commercial developer. And so he was trying to develop the houses the same way, and the prices were out of sight. And there was just lots of things. And he went out and found this one, onesie twosie kind of local builder to sort of put the project up. And it was just a mess. And so I sat next to him at a charity function, and he said to me, and he knew my husband pretty well. And he goes, "Will you come straighten this out?" And I go, "Yes, we can do that." And so we actually took a couple of the architectural, it was an empty nester product. So we took some of the floor
And what
plan.
year was this?
This would have been probably in, let's see, 86 to probably right in the early 90s.
So you did Windstone
I
in
did
86, you're in the
Windstone.
early 90s, and you're basically at so he's this commercial builder's trying to do residential. I love that because I've got a commercial husband. He's always trying to tell me how to do residential. No, he's not. I'm kidding. He's going to kill me for saying that because it's not true. But anyway, but they do tend to have good size egos.
Yeah.
So he comes in and he realizes this isn't going well.
Yeah.
And you happen to see him, and and you have the conversation. Okay, can
Yeah.
you fix this for me, Christie? And you say yes.
Yes.
And when you came in there,
Uh-huh.
what did it look like when you got there? And what did you do? And what did it look like? What was the impact? What was the end result?
Well, what he was doing was he had this builder that only built one house at a time. And so we said, okay, I need a spec house. And we had connections with a local furniture company. We went to them. We put up a model. We pulled 4 different floor plans. We got a builder in that was a little bit better at more production building. Still a semi-custom builder. So not a real big production builder, but a semi-custom builder. We brought him up from the south suburbs, and he put a crew up here, and we opened up the sales center. And
how many lots was that one?
I'm sorry, how many lots?
How many homes?
Oh, that one was probably, I think that was about 40. That
40
was
homes.
40 homes. Yeah.
So one at a time for 40 homes isn't going to go very well.
No, but he had 2 developments because we did the one, and then he had another development that it was pretty funny. He was trying to staff it out, a person staffing it out of a farmhouse that was on the property. And,
Wow.
and so we cleaned that up. We put a parade of homes in there actually.
Yeah.
And, he was a pretty well-to-do guy. So I had him, I suggested to him that we subordinate 4 builders with the lots and let them put the homes up on our lots. And then we put it in. Back then, parade of homes were a big deal. And so
what a parade of homes is, like a group of floor plans to choose from? What does that mean?
Yeah, the local newspaper used to run a big
Oh, so it's
parade of homes.
media.
Yeah.
So Parade of
So,
Homes was like a weekly feature that you did for properties or?
well, no, it was actually a month long of Saturdays and Sundays where all the homes had to be open. And
Oh, I
so
love it.
it was called the Parade of Homes.
It's kind of like the caravan, but it's not agents, broker
Yeah,
agents. So you had
yes.
the Parade of Homes, which got, so
So
you
we had a
generated
parade of
traffic.
homes there and we subordinated the lots for 4 different builders. And they put up spec houses that had to be opened during that month for those Saturday and Sundays. And and we sold a good percentage of the lots. And then we had an opportunity to go to jump to another developer that was they were already started and were pretty much on their way. And from there we kind of went to another developer that was basically a realtor. He was a realtor
Mhm.
that had a real estate office and he was doing a subdivision, which we had about 68 homes in them. And he had a trailer on the site and was staffing it with floor time. So every,
Nobody knew anything about the houses.
nobody knew anything about it. And so he came to me and said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "If you listen to me, I will." And he did.
Say that again. Can you help me? If you listen to me, I will. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you listen, I can help you. What a great lesson. What a great answer. I love you have all these like elements of brilliance and you just kind of roll over them like it's nothing.
Well, it's the truth though.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy like this successful developer can't figure it out, and you're like, well, if we just build a house they can see first, and then we build more than one at a time, and then we actually like have them available and promote it so people can walk through them, like all obvious, but you laid it out and made sure it all happened. So
Yeah.
anyway, you've got this real estate agent with subdivision of 68 homes who thought he could just like put bodies in a sales trailer
Right.
or whatever
Yeah.
and sell it, and that wasn't working. So you came in.
So we came in and again, we had him build us a model. And actually we suggested that he had 4 models. And so, or 4 floor plans, I
So he
should.
had that part figured out.
Yeah, he had 4 floor plans and we asked him if he would build those 4 houses. So basically, as spec houses. And we could use them as models for the rest of the community. And so he did. He said, okay. And he had a pretty strong backer that we knew. And so he trusted us. And so we went in and took the 4 floor plans, had the models done, and moved into one of the models with our sales office. And literally that community, we sold all but probably the last 10 lots out of it before I left. Because he was pretty much, they could pretty much, do it on their own by then.
So how long did it take you to sell those?
I would say that we were there for probably 18, 19 months and got them all done pretty much.
And then you 2
We
more builders.
actually, we won sales and marketing team of the year that year for that subdivision.
Okay, so here's a question for our listeners. You won sales and marketing team that year, and that
Yeah.
was by then, that was what, late 90s, early
Yeah.
90s?
Yeah.
Which one later?
Actually, I got my dates screwed up. That was 91. We did that development before we did the commercial developers development.
So Winstone, then the realtor you helped, and then you did the commercial development of 40 homes.
Yep.
And the one that you did with 68 homes, the second one for the realtor, that was a 91 sales and marketing team of the year. Was that because there was something special you were doing or your results were good and they just gave it to you?
Well, it was kind of funny. I mean, I guess this is a pretty funny story. Okay. So we did have a marketing person that we had on staff, and they were actually a PR person. I shouldn't say they were PR. And so the PR person came to us and they were pretty impressed by how we some of the things that we did. We just made it real homey. Like even up at the Windstone subdivision, every house that we broke ground. I mean, I'm remembering all this stuff now. We used to go out, and when the builder was going to, when he had the foundation in, we would go out and set up a card table and have the local grocery store made us a sheet cake. And we had the rendering of their house on the sheet cake, and we'd have balloons and champagne, and we would have a groundbreaking party. And we did that for
That's so awesome.
yeah, it was fun. Everybody looked forward. Oh, they all wanted their groundbreaking.
I mean, you've got to buy a house. Like really, like, but it's funny, but really, like it or not, we buy houses for things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And
Yeah.
I've never, I mean, maybe I'm an idiot, but I've never seen or heard of that before.
I don't know of anybody that's really done. I don't even
Did
know.
your PR? Who thought of that? Was it the PR? I mean, that is, I love that.
No, we did. I don't know. We just,
So
kind of were like, well, why don't let's do a little party about it. And then, we went down to our local grocery store is called the Jewel, and they had a bakery department, and
what
they
a jewel.
put kids' pictures on cakes, and we go, could you put a house on a cake? And they go, sure. So we sent it down there.
So did you send like the drawings from the
The architect would give us the rendering. And
yeah, the rendering.
Yeah.
I love that.
Fun. It was.
I'm going to edit out this part of the
Okay.
episode so nobody else has this idea, and I'm the only agent doing it now. I'm kidding. I won't do that. But like that is so okay. So it's the little things
Yes.
that makes such an impact. What a fun thing to
Yep.
do. So what else? Like, so no wonder sales and yeah.
Which I guess people, what we've evolved to in real estate is this not being done. So I'm going to preface that with what I'm going to
Yes.
tell you. So in the next development we did, which was another, it was a smaller community, but very
So
family.
this was so I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want us to keep up. Number one was Windstone, 750
So
acres.
one was Windstone, and then the second one is actually the development I'm going to tell you about this time. And
Okay.
the Prada Homes one was the development after that.
Okay.
Okay.
That was 40 homes.
Yeah.
The second one, though, the real estate agent who was the developer of 68 homes.
Yes.
This is the one
Yeah.
we're talking about now.
Yes.
Which you got sales and marketing team of the year for.
Yes. So
Okay.
the PR person came to us and said they were members of the Home Builders Association in Chicago, and they came to us and said, there's an award for sales and marketing team of the year, but you have to put together a whole project of how you sold out or how you have been successful selling the development. And she came to us like a week before they were going to choose who was the person. And in that development, one of the things that we did was while we were building the homes, as the families were moving in, we had a family board in there. And so when we'd sign their contract, they'd bring their kids and they'd come in for a picture, and they'd stand in front of the renderings, and we'd take a picture with them with signing their contract. And then we take a picture of them with their family. And we had a big board up, and we had all the families, and we got their permissions, and they all loved it, because when somebody came into the sales center back then, it was a big deal. There wasn't too many new subdivisions in Barrington, and they all were worried about, are there families in here? Are there, so we had all these pictures of what the families were. And they loved it. And then we had a block party at the model for everybody that had purchased. And, we had clowns and all kinds of stuff there. And so I think everything was all back then, it was revolved around a family community.
Yeah.
And everybody knew each other. They all knew the stages of their houses because we had this party.
You just create a sense of community before the houses are even there.
Exactly.
Which actually generated more people wanting to be a part of the community, and the anticipation and the,
Yeah.
wow. And this was the same neighborhood you did the rendering cakes for.
No, that Windstone was the Jack Nicklaus development.
Windstone, the 750 acre. Okay, so
Yeah.
back to the, so
Yeah,
you
this
got
was
the,
just a smaller development.
okay, and this is the one you got the sales and marketing award
Yes,
for.
and how that was a funny story because the PR agent came to us like the week before we had to have all the materials in.
Yeah,
And we were like, well, we were up against the big block builders. I mean, they had whole advertising companies that were putting it on.
yeah.
So we kind of thought it was, we kind of laughed and made a little bit of a joke about it. And we did it like a science project. We went and got what do you call those poster board things?
Yeah,
Where you stand them up, the three, and
yeah.
we made a little mini board of our family board, and we had pictures that we had of the block parties, and we did we showed the renderings of the models, and I mean we did it in like 6 stages of the cardboard boards, and
Yeah.
literally they drove it down and we won. We weren't even at the dinner because we thought we never.
There's no way. So how did you find out you won? Like after the dinner?
One of the PR agent was there because she had done PR for a couple of the other big builders, and she we got called at like 9:00 at night and said, "You guys are not going to believe this." And we're like, "Oh my God!" It was like a science project for an 8th grade science fair. That's what we turned in. And
Oh my gosh.
it was hysterical. We were laughing the whole time we were doing it because we were like, this is hysterical. This is like
That's
mom
awesome.
and pop compared to the big advertising companies doing this for all these guys. They must have just been shaking their heads.
But I mean, like, what a great story. It reminds me of David and Goliath, Malcolm Gladwell. It's the same thing. Like you just were who you were and used what you had and what you were brilliant at, which read David and Goliath, everybody, because it's not what we all perceive it to be. You dominated with that.
Well, it was simple. It was just about people.
Yeah. And what would you say? I mean, you kind of answered it, but to dig a little deeper, when you're doing the marketing, implementing the marketing that you are, and it's so personal and has such a personal touch, because when you look at it, you're like, oh, of course, I would think of that, like, but only you were doing it and only your team was doing it. What is the difference? What is the mindset? What is the approach to always have that personal touch and do things differently? Or what was it?
I think it was just the genuineness of it.
Mm.
It wasn't complicated. It was instead of all of the pizzazz and all the smoke and mirrors that everybody tried to do, it was like, like the groundbreaking parties. I mean, here's, adults enjoying a birthday party in a sense for their house.
Yeah. Yeah. A birthday party for your house.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like it was just
that's
the
a great name for it.
Of it. And, we did try to break some champagne bottles like they do on the ships. We did try to break a couple of them across but nobody ever broke one, and we just tried to make it fun. And I think it was simple, genuine fun is what it was.
So obviously you had a great time in development. And how many years so 85 you started, and then you got to transition into resale. When did that happen?
Well, it happened when we went back to Windstone and bought the real estate office from the developer.
Okay.
And we ran that from 1995 to 2007.
Wow.
And we sold it in 2007.
And so there are two quite, I want to hear about 95 to 2007, but who'd you sell it to in 2007?
Well, 2005, this is kind of another part of the story, I guess. 2005, Sotheby's had just procured the licensing agreement for the real estate division in 2004. And they had put they had hired a sales guy put them boots on the street to go find real estate companies that fit their model. And we really did fit their model, because you have to remember, I mean, the Nicholas Development Corporation built our office.
Well,
It was beautiful.
you were the sales and marketing team of the year, and you only did renderings of people's homes as cake. I mean, yeah, obviously.
It does sound kind of ridiculous.
Obviously. Oh, it's awesome. I'm so jealous. Like, I want to be there. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway.
So they came to us in 05 and trying to basically sell us a franchise. I mean, you had to be approved to be a Sotheby's office, and we met all of their qualifications. And I had a partner in the Winstone Realty office, and he was older than me. He was a friend of my husband's, and he was older than I was. And he was just like, I'm not going back and doing this again in a franchise. He had already owned a franchise office at one point in time. And so, we just kind of passed on it. And we had been lucky enough to develop our own website at that time, back in 2000, actually, I think 2003, we actually had a website that had a pretty substantial amount of hits on it. Because we designed it around looking like we were a developer sales office, which we were an independently owned sales office, but we designed it and acted like we were still the developers of the property. And that's how we ran it. So, like we did our ads in Unique Homes, and we designed them just like Golden Bear would design the sites or the advertising.
The question, because we're fast forwarding so much, we're skipping parts, because you say we designed it, but you're because you're in 1995, you started your own office, but you're also in resale now.
Right. Oh yeah, we're totally.
But you're marketing your listings as if you were a developer. I mean, like, here's the thing, Christie, everything you say, you're like, oh, I mean, you say it like you're telling me how to bake cookies, but it is a lot more impressive than that, just for the record. So I don't want anybody missing this. This is awesome. So you come in and you basically took everything you did for developers and you just applied it to resell. Like, duh.
And we
But
actually,
brilliant.
we welcomed the outside real estate world to come into our office. I mean, our girls would be getting them tea and coffee for their clients and let them sit into our conference room and write contracts, not all the time, but there was quite a few of them that did that weren't even our listings they were selling. They were selling another agent's listing that was listed in the development, but we opened our office to them. So
Were you friends with Horst Schultz? Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
He's the guy who ran the Ritz-Carlton and applies all the concepts.
Oh, yeah. And now I know who he is. Of course I know.
Yeah. But you do things. I've just finished his book, which I listened to him and known who he was, but I literally just maybe a couple of days ago finished his book.
Yeah.
Like, everything you do is you don't articulate that that's what you're doing, but your actions are exactly how he says to do things. Like, to a T, like the other agents from other offices coming in and treating them the way you did.
Yeah.
That's his philosophy.
Yeah.
That's how he treats people. There's this special, genuine touch, the ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. So,
and it used to be so funny because we were like, well, this just makes sense to us, because literally they are now in our office. They are having our staff help them. And when they go to relist their house, who are they going to call? They're going to call us.
Right.
They're not going to call the agent that just wrote their offer and sold them.
Right. Right. And the agent's going to come sign up for your office and give you, right? I mean, like, that's what's going to happen. Everybody wants to be there.
Yeah,
just get in line.
Sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's because so many people don't see and think of it that way. It's just so brilliant. So 19,
so that would be.
You haven't finished it, have you? So back to 2005. So 2005, you qualify for SIR, but you're like, no, not doing that.
Yeah.
Passed on it. you were telling me about your website in 2003, but let's get through this story about 2005 and SIR and what happened in 2007. And then we're going to go back to 1995, if everybody's keeping up, and talk about that's when you launched your resale office, the resale office. But let's talk about 2000, get through this franchise story because I love this.
Well, so Sotheby's came to us, and at the time they were, obviously just in the process of putting all this together. I think they had the flagship stores in New York and a couple of the coastal properties. But they were looking at franchise, they were out selling their franchises, what they were doing. And but in a qualifying way, because they were still Sotheby's and it was the brand, and you had to really fit the brand, and we did fit the brand. And but we were getting a lot of hits on, and I would go on their site, and I didn't think it was as good as ours. I told that to Wendy Purvey the other day, and she started laughing.
Love it.
um, and so anyway, we passed. Well, they came back to us in '06, probably closer to the mid part of '06. And I had someone that I had sold a house to, and they really wanted to come work for us. They really wanted to be a partner, and we weren't interested in another partner. And so I had mentioned to them that Sotheby's had come to us, and that we were, didn't think we wanted to do the franchise, but that it was out there. Well, in the beginning of '07, they had made a hard push, and this person came to me and said, you know what, how about if I just buy you? And so we were sensing the business getting a little more difficult. The sales were getting a little harder in '07. We had no idea that we were going to be going into the recession that we went into. And so obviously with my partner, who was older than me, I walked into his office and I said, hey, you want to sell? And he was like, absolutely. And so I said, all right. I go, but well, here's what we have to do. I go, we have to go get the Sotheby's franchise. And so we worked on that, and we were able to get the Sotheby's franchise. And in June of '07, we basically sold the office and took the franchise at the same time. So we were the ones that were approved for the franchise, but they had given us their blessing to pass it on to the new owner, because we had told them that we were selling the office, and they had met.
Wow.
So it was just one seamless transaction.
And you didn't get out?
I didn't get out. I stayed there for about a year, and
out of business, but keep going. Yeah.
I stayed in that office for about a year, the Sotheby's office, and then Coldwell Banker was kind of calling my name, and so I went down to Coldwell Banker and did a little stint down there when they had previews, and then the previews, they just didn't roll. They just didn't continue it as they should have, and I think they decided that they didn't really. Previews in the Midwest with the recession and all of that. It just wasn't.
Because this was what, '08 by now, by the time that was happening?
Yes, I was in '08. That's exactly when it was, '08. And then, so we stayed at Coldwell Banker until about, I think, '16 or to 2016. And then in 2016, Jameson came in and bought the franchises for Barrington. And it was time for us to go back to Sotheby's, because Sotheby's was actually always in my heart. It was the only brand that I knew that I could pass my baby of an office onto. And so that's that's the whole story.
So, and then in 16, and then that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. So we've been back. I've been back at Jameson over the last 5 6 years.
I mean, don't you want to stop? No. I mean, what an amazing career.
I keep saying, I got another go around. And then,
Right. There's always something else to look forward
yeah,
to, especially when you know you can quit. When you know you're good, like you can't stop.
I
There's always
know.
something to go after. So I'm going to do a recap on your career. You get in the business, and then we're going to ask some more questions. So you get in the business in, well, no, I'm not yet because I have some questions. Well, let's do because everybody can follow. 86, you become an agent. You're with developers until 95. 95, you start a brokerage. And when you start the brokerage, you're doing resales, but you're really doing them the same way you do new construction, which gave you this incredibly Ritz-Carlton, as I call it, custom, over the top, that was so completely like there was no competition because you did such a great job of marketing from what you learned from new development. '05, Sotheby's comes in. By '07, you end up selling to someone who takes it as a Sotheby's office. '08, you go to previews at Coldwell Banker. You were there until 2016. 16, you came back to Sotheby's. And now we're at the end of October in 2021, and you were still at Sotheby's.
I am.
One part we didn't talk about, 1995, when you go out of new developments, and you go into this resale brokerage
Yeah.
thing, what was that transition? How did that go? What were the differences, challenges? Give us go there, take us to that place in time, and what did that look like?
Well, the lucky part of that is that in order to use the name Whinstone, it was trademarked and we were Whinstone Realty. We could only sell inside the community of Whinstone. And so since we had done all the inception land sales there, I mean, it was a no-brainer for us to just continue on. I mean, most of those people knew us and they appreciated the real estate office being there. It was very easy for them. And you have to remember that we had a major amount, as you do now. And so, I think Country Club of the South was a similar situation where there was a lot of transferee, corporate transferee clientele base in there. That was what Whinstone was. So we had Motorola, Allstate. We had the CEO of Motorola that lived here. Or Allstate, not Motorola, CEO of Allstate. We had the CEO of Kemper. We had the CEO. We just had, all the division heads of presidents and executives of Motorola. So, we had Square D. We had, it just all that corporate transferring back and forth in a golf course, a gated golf course, private country club community was, we weren't rocket scientists. We just ran with the business that we had and we always did. And most of those corporations had offices throughout the country. And when they would transfer them back in to Chicago, here we were.
You made yourself the obvious choice. You made it easy. I find too, a lot of people when they're relocating, if they can find that gated neighborhood community, it just gives them like, okay, I'm comfortable because I feel like I know it's all here. You've got the site plan, you've got the houses. I know who lives here. I know what the lifestyle is. I know what the amenities are. I don't have to figure it out. I can do this.
Yes.
It's just it's an easy thing. That's why
I understand that. A lot of Chicago doesn't understand that. And
when you're an agent, I get that from resale because, right? Like you know what people want, especially when they're coming from other markets. So
yes, but a lot of the resale agents were old guards that didn't do a lot of, corporate transferee people. They did their old, the old families that.
Okay. So talking about that, you just said, to repeat what you said, a lot of the agents were the old guards. It's kind of like when you come to Chicago or when you come to Atlanta, this is how it is and this is what you do.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting, and I'm stealing this from Jack Cotton, who was on the show a while back. He's been on the show 2 or 3 times, but it's been like, this is going to be about episode 240, whatever. He was in like 100. But he talks about it's that old guard or that, old school way of doing things is very often the gateway for the newer agent. It's when you take for granted, nope, this is how it is. This is how we do it. There's no other way to do it. There's a lot of power in that. but there's also leaves room for what's missing and leaves that gap, especially the agents that assume, oh, this is mine, this is what we do.
Yep.
If you're in a seasoned agent, the minute you start doing that, watch out because here they come. And if you're a new agent, no, that's always there. And if you're a good agent and know it and you're seasoned and you learn and you have value and you offer it, you'll soar to success.
Well, and we embraced the old guard. You know, we had
right.
We had a couple of agents that literally had a driver. Okay. I mean, they were older. They actually had a driver, and one of them was, I think she did probably 60% of Motorola's business. Okay. And she would sit in the back seat with her client, and her driver would drive, and they'd come, and my partner was pretty good friends with her, and she was adorable. And he made a deal with her, which she loved. If they bought our listing, we paid for lunch. If she sold them a house of another listing, she would buy lunch.
I love that. Like, exactly. I love that.
But she knew she could come in, you know, everybody treated her like she was a queen when she came in.
She clearly was.
She was. And, you know, everybody loved her. And, you know, she would say, oh, and she could, you know, oh, honey, will you get them some tea? And, you know, like they were her employees. And
it's not even her brokerage. Yeah. I love that.
So that's, you know, it was okay. We were fine. You know,
just whatever it was, things that would have upset people, a lot of agents, especially because it can be a very territorial business.
Exactly.
You embraced it. You embraced it and ran with it, and look at what it did.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why we were so successful for so many years, because when I make the analogy of we still ran it like a development office, I think that the lines blurred for the territorial agents. So they didn't feel that way, because they knew we were always going to have their back. We were never going to try to show them up, because we didn't have to.
Exactly. And that's not how you did business. That's not how you.
No, and they needed us, because we knew, you know, most of the houses in the community. We knew the quirks of them. We knew the positives of them. We knew the best sites. We knew that we could listen to their clients and say, I think you should see this, this, and this house, you know. And of course we would tell them, you know, look, we're only going to be selling our listings. So the other listings you're on your own with.
Yeah. Well, something else interesting, a lot of neighborhoods that do that. This is just a generalization. It's not true everywhere, but they often don't, as you said in the beginning of this interview, they often don't honor resell or agents with other brokerages, even when they're established and they've grown. It's kind of like, no, this is our community and our agents do this community, and outside agents we don't honor. Now, it doesn't happen as often in Atlanta, because in Atlanta, just like you said, you do have the old guard, and it's powerful. Don't mess with it. So, but you guys, you made sure not to do that. You made sure to embrace, and that's embrace. It's not competition.
Probably 5 to 7 agents that would literally call us before the client came in. They'd give us the background. They'd say, will you pick the houses out where you think that they should see? And we'd send them the list. And then, and we actually would even say, if there was a couple of houses that we felt that, you know, should be on we'd say, you know what, these are listed by these agents, but they should probably see them.
Wow.
Because you don't want them not to see something and think they missed it, because, you know, so we would do that a lot, you know, just I don't know. We just thought it was good business.
Now, was there some lesson you learned, or is that just how you do things, and why?
I think that's just how I do things in life. I mean, you know, I guess I could be a desk agent at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton.
You're probably doing better doing this though, but anyway.
But, you know, I mean, that's just, I guess, a concierge in a sense. You know,
He'll author a book with Horst Schultz, say, hey, you need a sequel. for real estate. We'll write it together, right? Okay, so now I think we've been talking for 50 minutes or so. So I want to ask you some questions though. So now we look at your career. Now we know your story.
Okay.
What would you say, which some of it's come out, but I want it in your perspective, is your number one? Let's just talk about your biggest aha about real estate in general and this business. And are they different from resale versus new construction?
No, I don't think it's any different. New. I mean, I still will go in. I mean, I just had a client buy new construction from MI Homes, and they, you know what, their office ran like it should. They were very helpful. Of course, I am smarter than the average agent that's just dropping off their client there, signing them in. But I ask a lot of questions. I said to them, I hope they weren't offended, but I was going to be with my client through this process of getting them through contract. And because it's overwhelming, that, you know, they have to go in, they have to pick all their, it's quite a process for them. And so I wanted to make sure, and these were younger kids, and I wanted to make sure that they understood what they were signing off on and what they were doing, and what the extras were going to be and all of those things. And you know what, they were thankful, because that's just, and I'm sure I was probably, you know, the odd agent that would do that, because the easiest thing is to just go hand them your card, fill out the thing and hand them back. You know,
Yeah.
it's not, and then walk out and wait till the house is built and have a nice check.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that they were going to be happy in their house. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, the end result.
Yeah. So back to the question.
Yeah.
I'm going to rephrase it. Coming, because you didn't answer it. Coming into this business, we all have an idea of here's what it's like. And then we get in and we're like, oh, this is what it's really like. Or, oh, I thought that would work, but this works. Huh. What was yours? What was a big one?
Well, I still think it's the genuineness of caring about what's in the client's best interest and how you have to get there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it's any more complicated than that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, I guess it's my aha, but it's,
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah. No, I love that. Exactly. So well, I think a lot of people would need to have that aha, because it's amazing, because that aha is actually quite lucrative
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing how when you stop chasing it, it comes to you. You still have to do the right things. So looking at real estate over the years of your career, it has changed an awful lot. We started in the beginning talking about the books that you got every week. And then you've been through there were recessions. I just remember the Great Recession, because that was like, I had not been an agent but 5 years when that happened. But as you go through the ups and downs and the technology and everything that changes, two things: what remains constant, and how do you shift to keep your edge in the market?
Well, I think that, and there have been a tremendous amount of changes over my career. You know, the technology changes of every single day are, I think, the hardest for the older agents. And they are, I think that that's the hardest part of the business right now for me, without having somebody you have to have somebody that's younger that you can just say, here, do this. Because our brains they don't think the same way that theirs do. You know, we grew up with a pencil in our hand. They grew up with a computer in their hand. So it's just that part of it is the hardest part of it. But it hasn't made me decide to quit yet.
Yes. I would think it has an advantage. We talked about this, because the advantage is you don't get lost in your iPhone or in your computer. You're with people still. You're in the real world. We are selling real estate.
Yes. Yes. And I think that we still do some old things that I'm listening to some of the gurus that are talking, and I'm finding a common theme in their resurgence. And we still do direct mail, we still do postcards, we still do print magazines. I'm a person that I can't look at a magazine in a digital format. It just doesn't do it for me. I like to see it and touch it and read part of it and put it down. I don't like to sign back into my computer and find the page I was on or go through, so that's probably some people, the newer agents, they don't think that that's necessary. It's all about the internet and on social media. Of course, we're on all of those platforms and we have to be, but we also.
You're quite good. Everybody needs to check you out on Instagram. I mean, you're everywhere. You are. You're an agent. I don't forget. You're so great on Instagram, and your stuff's beautiful. All right, now we're going. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, that's it. I'm good.
Final three. Final three questions. So number one, if there is, or what resource do you think has most impacted or you can most attribute to your success?
As much as it pains me to say this, it probably is the internet.
How funny.
I think that the exposure that it delivers is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think it's just a matter of being able to choose the right content to get out into that exposure. So
what would you say that is?
Well, I think that we try to paint a genuine picture of, we're in the business of real estate. We're in the business of selling homes. And we don't have we have on most of the exposure. I mean, even in my local magazine articles, I mean, I'm a small picture in the corner. I believe in presenting my properties. I don't believe in presenting me. I'm not selling me. I'm selling my clients' homes. And I think that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And I think that it's kind of somewhat of a unfortunate today that where agents feel that they have to be constantly selling themselves. If they sell their houses, they'll sell enough of them that they'll get the recognition.
And the house sales will go quite well when you do that.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's all about it. To me, everything is about the client and how we're going to get the job done for them. And I don't think that I'm getting the job done for them by putting my whole body on an ad and a picture of me and all of that. I think I'm painting my, it's basically the Sotheby's platform, the visual of that. I mean, the visualness of a beautiful home says more than you can say in words.
So true.
So
next question.
Okay.
I mean, I have nothing to add to that. So next question.
Okay.
Book. What book do we have to read or has changed your life or do you recommend?
Well, I do. And I know we talked about this a little bit. And I think that if I was for my team, and I have a newer agent coming on, and I'm going to suggest that they do read the Ninja Selling book. And I think because it has a lot of old principles in it in today's world. And I think that's what I took out of it. I mean, you could do, they tell you to do a lot of different things, but it's basically the premise there that I took from it, and I just finished reading it, was connecting with people, staying connected with people, not trying to connect with, tens of thousands of people, but trying to connect with your 100. And I think that we forget about that. We're trying to expose ourselves to so many things. And a lot of times we're missing what's right in front of us. And I think the other book that I'm only half finished with, so I'm kind of giving it to you as I'm reading it. But I just saw the speaker, and it was called Soundtracks.
Ooh.
And it's by, I'm going to have to pull it off here. John Acuff.
How do you spell his last name? Oh, is that the book?
It's the book.
Yeah. Acuff. So, okay, what is the takeaway? What is this about?
The takeaway of that is overthinking things. And it talks about the soundtracks that you play in your head when you're overthinking something, and what you're saying a lot of times. You know, he has a reference in the book about him. He travels a lot. And so every time he goes out of town, he starts a day or two early telling his kids, you know, now don't worry, Dad's going to be back. He's only going for a short period of time, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Setting this whole premise. He's thinking he's setting it, you know.
He's just telling them to worry and that he might not be back and that
Exactly.
That is a long time. And oh my gosh, I love this guy, because it's like when you look in the mirror and say, I'm so pretty, it's like, why does she think she's ugly?
Yeah, it's all those soundtracks that you play.
Yeah, I
and
love it.
To them, will you stop doing that? They're okay. They know Daddy goes, and he goes on a plane to work. It's okay.
Right.
You're scary.
So now they're like, what? Right. And we do that to ourselves.
Yep. And that's, I mean, have so many great analogies in there, and I'm not finished with it, but he was a great speaker, just a terrific speaker, and he's written 7 books.
I haven't heard it. Yeah, because people talk about like affirmation. I'm like, don't affirmation me. Don't, because for me, it's what he's talking about. I'm like, it's just like, if you're going to get up every day and tell yourself how whatever you are, you're just telling yourself you're not. Now, I don't know if that's what the book is, but I just,
pretty much that's the premise of it. It's basically the solution of overthinking.
Love. All right, last question.
Okay.
As we close out this interview, if I and everybody else listening are going to forget everything but one thing today, what do you hope we take away from this?
To be genuine. You know, treat people with kindness. And I know that sounds so trite today. And I mean, I almost didn't say it because it seems like it's the trend, but I think that a very genuine caring about a very big process in people's life. And I think that when you show that, you know, every step of the way, it can be daunting sometimes as an agent, but because if you do take it to the letter of the law, you have to be there with them every step, you know, including them trying to pack their house, you know, and I'm not saying that you have to be in there and packing their house, but, you know, finding the resources for them, because
acknowledging it.
And acknowledging it. That's true. And they're overwhelmed by it. It's an overwhelming process. And I think that we have to respect that as agents.
I really do. Well said. Christie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So good to have you on. So good to see you.
It was so fun.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf podcast.com.